Hello, thank you for attending this session with me. I am very happy to be with you today and learn you and teach you some basic concepts about programming and how the web pages of the internet is built and what are the main components of building any web page on the internet that you open on the browser using Chrome or using Internet Explorer or whatever browser you are using. Now I am going to share my screen and I hope you enjoy the session with me. So I am going today to talk with you about basic concepts in HTML and JavaScript. Main topics are inline elements versus block elements. What are arrays and loops in the world of building web page and HTML pages, and what is CSS specificity. First of all, I need to tell you small information about what are the components of web pages. HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, is the basic language for building a web page, and CSS stands for Cascaded Style Sheet, and JavaScript is a programming language for adding interactivity to your website. So these are three main elements in any web page that you open on using a browser. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is the main building elements of the web page, and CSS adds the styles and coloring and photos and images and defines the layout of your page and what are the icons that you are going to use. And JavaScript is adding the interactivity to your web page. For example, if you want to add information or submit a photo or upload a photo, these functionalities are called dynamic actions that happen on a web page. So JavaScript is used to add interactivity with your web page. First, I will talk with you about inline elements versus block elements. Block elements, like, is one of the elements that is used to build HTML pages. That is used to be opened with any browser. The div element is a block element. What is the meaning of a block element? I will show you by example now. The div element is a block element and will start on a new line. By example, the block element here is called div element, and this is the definition of the tag element. And if we click draw it yourself here, we will see that this is how we build HTML element pages and elements in a page. And this is the div element. And here on the right, it is rendered. This is the actual result when if you run it in a browser. You will see that hello is in a line and world is another in the second line. So the div element is a block element and will start on a new line. And it is important to know also that the different of block elements like div elements called address, article, list, main, navigation for adding navigation menu, an ordered list, video element, these all are block elements, which means that if you added any element from these type of tags, it will be added in a new line in the page. For example, if we added here a new tag element called welcome to Introduction to Programming Nano Degree, and click Run, you will see that the div element is added as a new line. So this is a block element and will start on a new line. What about the inline element? Inline element like span element, if you write hello on in a line and the word world in the second line, the span element is an inline element and will not start on a new line. Let's see how this is working in the browser. Inline elements here. If you want to try yourself, you see here on the left hand side that span element is defines hello, and the second element defines world. If we added another element here, blue the world, and say hello to my session and click run, you see on the right hand side that the new span element is added in line. Again, the new span element is added in line. So span elements is an inline element and will not start as a new line. And this is the basic information you need to know in order to build an HTML page. And there are many types of similar inline elements, like span element called A for adding a hyperlink, acronym P, bold, italic, image, text area, time, and strong. And let's get back again to the next topic, inline versus block elements. We said again that span elements are inline elements and will not start on a new line. And now the next concept is arrays and loops. What are arrays? JavaScript arrays is written like this: var, which is the type of the variable called cars that holds an array. This is the syntax of creating a new array by using square brackets and adding whatever element inside the square brackets. An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. If you have a list of items, a list of car names, for example, storing the cars in a single variable could look like this. If you want to repeat this, you will have to repeat var car1, var car2, var car3. Creating an array, var array name equal item1, item2. This is the syntax that is used to create an array. Let's get back to example of creating arrays. JavaScript arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable. So we have many values for the cars, and let's try it here. And if we added an element here, comma, this is the syntax, I, comma, Hygen, for example. As you see, this is the result of the adding this array elements, and whatever elements you are going to add here, it will be displayed on the right side. So these are one variable holds many values. So this is the array. One variable holds many different similar values. Okay, what if I wanted to display all these items like we see here on the right side we need to loop or iterate over each element in the array. We need to have a methodology to get each value in this array and get it displayed as we see here on the right side. How this is done? We use what is called loops. For example, there are many types of loops that is used to loop over an array called JavaScript loops. Loops are handy if you want to run the same code over and over again each time with a different value Instead of writing text plus equal cars of 0 plus PR means break, yeah, please, which tells the browser, this is an HTML syntax that tells the browser, please add new line after each value. And the plus equal means please add the values to the previous one. So please display each value separated by new line, and you hear the six lines are repeated with different index. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the index of each element in the array, which is the address, in other words, to each element in the array. So instead of using, what if we have thousands of elements in the array or millions of elements in the array? You can write var I for I equals 0 or I less than cars length I plus plus text plus equal cars of I. So now we have an iterator that has values from 0 to 5, and we append the cars of I plus a break. So this is a shortcut for running the same code over and over again. So to recap again, we use arrays to define different values in one variable, and in order to access these values and get them displayed in whatever uh, display options, we get it displayed here. JavaScript for loop. Loops are handy if you want to run the same code over and over again. Let's have a look again over the for loops. This example, JavaScript loops. Instead of writing these values, you write for loops with this syntax. I is the iterator that represents the number of the element in the array. And if we click try it yourself, here we have an array of cars with all different values, and we wanted to display them in separated by new line. Each item in a line, we create the for loop with an iterator from I equals 0, which is the first element in the array, till the end of this is the starting point, and this is the last index in the array, and this is the step. Please move one by one. So this is the for loop that will iterate over this variable array item by item. For I equals 0, the value here in the text will be cars of 0, which is BMW, followed by a break. And next is the Volvo and Saab, Ford, Fiat, Audi. Each element is accessed based on its index in the array or order in the array 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is it. So when we deal with arrays, we use loops, and there are many different types of loops called for loop and for each. Let's get back to our presentation. And the last topic we are going to talk about today is CSS specificity. As I told in the beginning, that CSS is cascaded style sheet is responsible for adding styles for each HTML element, like div, span, list element, whatever element inside an HTML page, we need to add the style to it. And the style here means coloring, icon, layout, position, width, height. These are different attributes, and CSS values can be applied to elements. So, specificity is the means by which browsers decide which CSS property values are the most relevant to an element and therefore will be applied. Specificity is based on the matching rules, which are composed of different sorts of CSS selectors. How is calculated? Specificity is a weight that is applied to a given CSS declaration determined by the number of each selector type in the matching selector. When multiple declarations have equal specificity, the last declaration found in the CSS applied is applied to the element. CSS specificity is example for that. If we have a div element with ID called test and has an inner element called span and div. So the CSS selector here, there are different types of CSS selectors in which I tell the HTML keys I need to reference or access this specific tag. So each tag inside the HTML element has an address or has a name or has a type. And we can access these specific elements by different CSS selectors. Here, this means div hash test means please get me the div element with ID test. And the second line means please give me the div element with an inside span element. So it might have three or more other different divs with spans, so it will be more deviated and will not be very much specific. And the third line, span selector, means please get me the span element in the page, and the page might have 100 or more span elements. So the more specific address here, or the more specific CSS selector is div hash test. No matter the order, text will be green because that rule is most specific. Also, the rule for blue overrides the rule for red, notwithstanding the order of the rules. So, specificity means the rule is more specific that defines the very specific element by its name, type, or ID. And I would like to thank you today for this session, and I hope you understand it. And don't hesitate to contact me for any questions. Thank you, and good luck with your introduction to programming nano degree. I was with you, Iman Zaghlul. Thank you, and bye bye.